sound right now. Can you hear me? Testing. Yeah. Testing 1, 2. Are you good? Is everybody good? Can you hear?
Yep. Yep.
Is it 11 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, first I'll introduce myself. My name is Trooper Stephen Lamani. I'm the Public Relations Officer for the Pennsylvania State Police. And I'm here today to talk about an incident that was brought to light between Felipe Vazquez and a 13-year-old, at that point in time, 13-year-old white non-Hispanic female that resided in the Scottsdale area, which is in Westmoreland County. So we were contacted in the beginning of August from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and they had advised us that they had a mother and a daughter that brought to their attention that there was communication between the daughter and this 26, well, at that point in time when we were investigating, a 26-year-old, so this, I believe he's 29 years old now, individual, and that communication was electronic and it was sexual in nature. And during the course of a forensics interview with the juvenile, it was brought to light that she had talked about a sexual relationship that took place one time in Scottsdale between her and Mr. Vazquez. During the course of the Florida Department's investigation, they had sent us an arrest warrant for Mr. Vazquez. We served that arrest warrant on Tuesday, along with the search warrant of his residence. And during the serving of the arrest warrant and the search warrant and some other interviews that had taken place, there was some statements and some consistencies with what the victim had related to what we were able to gather from the residence of Mr. Vazquez. And based on that information and consulting with the district attorney's office, we moved forward with a multitude of charges, some of the most serious ones being statutory sexual assault, unlawful contact with a minor, and other several-related charges, which are felonies. So based on that, we were able to obtain a detainer, because Mr. Vazquez is currently incarcerated at the Allegheny County Prison. And that detainer right now, we are working with his attorney on how an arraignment will go. And I'm assuming the arraignment will take place sometime later this afternoon, whether we physically take Mr. Vazquez back to Westmoreland County or there's some type of video arraignment, that those details haven't been ironed out yet. So with that being said, I know I kind of breezed over a lot. I did provide the criminal complaint for you. I really can't stray too far outside the criminal complaint, but if there's a question you may have, I'd be more than happy to maybe field a few questions before we...
Steve, you have a warrant from Florida. You also have the charges in Pennsylvania now.
Sure.
What will take precedent in this case? Yeah,
so talking with our district attorney, we have no reason to relinquish Mr. Vazquez from our custody until we're able to work through the charges that we have. And once we come to an agreement with what we're going to work with our charges, at that point in time, we, obviously, he has other things that he has to worry about and be concerned with in Florida, but we have no interest in trying to relinquish him until we can try and work through these charges.
Have you spoken with Florida law enforcement?
They've been very helpful. They've been great to work with and been nothing but cooperative, and they could understand where we're at and where we stand with our charges and what we have, and the fact that he's here now. And so it almost even makes more sense, and then considering the nature of our charges.
And your charges are a bit more serious than their charges.
Yeah. Ours is physical contact, as opposed to, and I don't want to downplay any type of physical contact. And then you're talking about video information, but we have him here. He's here basically in our custody, so to speak, because he's in Allegheny County, and we're going to work through. We've been working with his attorney. We've been in contact with him consistently throughout this process. So we're moving forward with that. Does anybody else have any other questions?
According to social media, kind of took off from there.
Yeah, so the original contact, from what we can obtain, took place through a social media interaction, and it grew from there to an exchanging of phone numbers, to a meeting where Mr. Vazquez took his vehicle and drove it outside of the victim's residence. The victim entered into his vehicle, and at that point in time, that's where the sexual intercourse took place. And she was 13 at the time when this took place. So based on that information and those facts, then we were able to move forward with these charges, which are horrific, and it's appalling and disgusting, and it's sad that things like this happen. Luckily, we were able to get enough information that we felt to move forward with an arrest.
In this affidavit, he more or less according to this, admits to these accusations.
So yeah, if you want to refer to the criminal complaint and read through it, there is consistencies with the victim and the other information we were able to gather. So I would definitely refer you to cite any of the consistencies you see, and I think based on those consistencies, I think that's the reason why you'll see the district attorney saying, yes, it's time to move forward with charges as severe as statutory sexual assault, unlawful contact with a minor, and other related type charges.
Did the victim move to Florida? Is that why the Florida charges were filed, or how did that?
Yes, so the victim had moved to Florida, and I don't know the exact timeline of when the victim moved to Florida, but yes, the victim had moved to Florida, not because of anything to do with Mr. Vazquez, just the victim moved to Florida, and during the interaction through electronics between the victim and Mr. Vazquez, a parent was intercepted some of these findings and then brought that to light with the law enforcement organization down there. And subsequently, when they realized that there was an interaction that took place in Scottsdale, obviously they notified us, and then we were able to conduct our investigation, which is really at its infancy stages. I mean, our investigation, although we were given information, started in the beginning of August. It really grew as of Tuesday, when we were able to serve a search warrant, and I really can't go into depth about all the things that we're working on when it comes to a search warrant, but we were down there serving the search warrant, serving the arrest warrant, and then subsequently had to file our own charges.
Steve, just to be clear, that you hit on this a minute ago. It was the victim's mother who discovered the text messages and videos and photos,
Yes.
and she was the one who contacted law enforcement authorities.
Yes, it was brought to my attention that the victim's mother was the one that initiated this entire course of events, and that started down in Florida. It did not start back here. And then they did their due diligence when they, being the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, did their due diligence and contacted us because of the Scottsdale incident that was reported during that interview.
As far as you guys know right now, was that the only incident where there was physical contact between the suspect, or between Vazquez and the victim?
Yes, so as of right now, we believe that there was only one physical interaction between the two of them that involved any type of sexual activity whatsoever. And that's all the information that we have when it comes to that aspect.
Where would the arraignment be?
So that's actually one of the things we're working on when it comes to the arraignment. He's obviously housed in the Allegheny County Prison. Whether we can work through some type of video arraignment, or if we physically have to remove him from the Allegheny County Prison and bring him back to District Moore's office, District Justice Moore's office, if that's what we end up doing. Right now we're trying to alleviate any type of transportation that doesn't seem necessary to be transporting somebody back and forth from the prison if we could just use the video arraignment system. So we're working on that, and I would think I could probably send out a tweet so that everyone's updated at the same time. If you're following the Twitter page, I'll be able to update you on that, and then if he's video arraigned, and then if there's any subsequent bond or anything of that nature, any type of stipulations, I'll be able to annotate that in the tweet that I send out.
Do you think this will be this afternoon?
I would like it to think that it would be definitely this afternoon before the close of business. Again, his attorney's been cooperative when it comes to interacting with the affiant in this case, Trooper Thompson. He's been back and forth with Trooper Thompson. So I feel like I'd be surprised if we didn't have him arraigned today.
Steve, is your office looking into the possibility of other victims?
Well, when it comes to cases like this, you always get concerned that there may be someone else out there. In this particular instance, we only have one report, and we're following through with that one report. Obviously, we serve search warrants, and who knows what you get from things of that nature. But right now, we only have one person that came forward with any type of information, and this person that came forward with information, it wasn't necessarily of her fruition. It was because of a parent intercepting the transmissions back and forth that were electronic in nature.
So just for my clarity, it seems like because Vazquez was contacting her, it seems while she was in Florida, and because the investigation started in Florida, that's why there are charges in Florida. Is that correct?
Correct. So while Florida was doing their due diligence on their investigation and investigating these electronic transmissions that are sexual in nature of a minor, which is obviously a crime, and the forensics interview takes place. A forensics interview is an interview that you conduct with experts to help try and get information and try and ease the interview process, so to speak, when you're talking to a minor. And during that interview process, it was advised that there was a sexual contact that took place, intercourse that took place in Mr. Vazquez's vehicle outside of her residence, and she had reported that, and a lot of the things that were brought to our attention during her interview were consistent with things that we were able to find during our investigation when it came to serving the arrest warrant, serving the search warrant, and those consistencies would be consistencies that generally only the two people that would be involved in that type of incident would have the information for. And based on all that information, it was the attention of our district attorney's office to continue to move forward with these types of very serious charges when it comes to statutory sexual assault, unlawful contact with a minor. It's a shame. It's sad. It's disgusting every time I have to come up here in the course of my 21-year career and talk about something of this nature. So, right now we're working on the arraignment, and that's kind of where we're at in our investigation. So, I know that you probably have a lot of other questions. Unfortunately, outside of what I've told you, I really can't think of anything that would be pertinent. But I will be able to give you the information, and I will keep you up to date on where he stays housed at, and also if there's any change in the bond. So,
for logistics, Steve, why leave him in Allegheny County and not?
Sure. So transporting and driving someone around back and forth isn't always necessarily the best way to handle things with the technology we have when it comes to video arraignments. So if people are able to be video arraigned, it's less cumbersome on the law enforcement organizations that could possibly be depleted as it is. There's a lot of other crimes happening other than just this particular horrific crime. So if we're able to coordinate an effort where he stays housed there, gets arraigned there, and he has because he has charges in Allegheny County, that arrest prior to requisition is a charge, which that's a fugitive charge. So he's held there on that charge with the Florida charges. So he technically has a charge in Allegheny County. And we would have to actually withdraw that charge, right, and then have the charges that we have today with the statutory sexual assault, the indecent contact with minor, all of those things, and move him from Allegheny County to Westmoreland County. So I feel like I'm getting very technical, but these are a lot of things that we would have to do to move him and house him, in Westmoreland County with the premise of he still has the Florida charges to deal with.
But if he goes on trial here, he's got to come out here eventually.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So he would, for those of you that didn't hear it, if he had to go on trial, he's going to come out and have his preliminary hearing out here, his trial out here. All of those things would definitely be out here in Westmoreland County, unless for some reason his attorney thought that he couldn't get a fair trial out here. At that point in time, who knows if they have to bring a different juror, if it gets relocated, things of that nature. So those are all things that we're way down the line in this particular case that we're working on.
And
So
there's no way you're going to let him be extradited before?
we have no intention of having him leave Pennsylvania until we can get this cleared up.
Steve, you don't know, and forgive me, I can check for sure, but he's a U.S. citizen or not?
I don't know his citizenship per se. Obviously, he's employed here in the United States.
What can parents be looking out for as far as the mother found these?
Sure.
What can parents?
And that's a great question. One of the things I'm always concerned with when children have devices, electronic devices, and obviously in this case you have a 13-year-old that has an electronic device, you need to be vigilant when it comes to checking your child's electronic devices. There are several different apps that you can get that send you a message every time your child gets a message, and you really need to pay attention to what they're doing. It's a scary world out there. When you hand them an electronic device that has access to the universe, it's very difficult, and it's incumbent upon us as parents to try and protect them, not only from the monsters out there, but from themselves sometimes, because they can run into something that they don't even realize that they're doing. So with that being said, I appreciate all of your attendance. I appreciate your questions.
One more question. Do you know if during the interview he indicated that he knew this girl was a minor?
I think if you were able to outline in the complaint, you'll be able to see that there's a lot of consistencies in what she had said and then what Mr. Vazquez had said, and there's also some references to age and things of that nature that are very distinctive when someone that's an adult should know the difference, and I think those things are very well outlined in the criminal complaint. So I would refer to the complaint when it comes to any conversations that we may or may have not had with Mr. Vazquez.
Did she know who he was?
That's a great question. I mean, they had contact through social media, and I think through the social media, if you look at the different social media aspects of Mr. Vazquez, I think it's clear to see who he is and what position he holds. So I think that whether she was at the ballpark or not, I know that was a report of their first contact. You know, the contact that we care about is the contact that was inappropriate and indecent, and it appears that for our intents and purposes, we were able to see that it definitely started through social media engagement. So that's where we can tell, and I hate that we go with what we can see as definite evidence, and the definite evidence is through social media contact being an initial contact from our perspective. And to a person who meets a person that would be alleged to be famous, so to speak, you might have so many different contacts with so many different people during the course of a day. To say you actually had contact with somebody, you know, it's hard to delineate. But in this particular case, when you're talking about social media interaction, you know when you're engaging back and forth with someone, you know, you're obviously starting that interaction, and you could see that the interaction takes place for quite some time. So I appreciate your time, I appreciate your attendance, and I will keep you updated as best I can. And it'll be through the Twitter account. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.